Come join us for a Nats Chat hangout at Walters just before the All-Star break Wednesday, July 8th, before the Nationals host the Astros. Come chat about Foster Griffin, Curtis Mead, PJ Poulin, and wish Jeremy, the owner of Walters, a happy birthday. Walters is located just across the street from the ballpark.
Now the 1-1. Swing a long drive, left field toward the monster. Way back it goes. It's gone. In and out of the green monster seats. There is Chapparro's first home run of the season. And what a big one it is. It spots the Nationals a 2-0 lead here at the top of the first. A triple and a home run. RBI 6 and 7 for Chapparro. That much awaited first long ball here in 2026 for Andres.
Fourth inning here at Fenway Park. Nationals 2, Red Sox nothing. First pitch to Nasim Nuñez, blasted high, deep to left field. Going, gone, goodbye. Off a car rental billboard above the green monster. Bang, zoom goes Nasim Nuñez with his first home run of the year. And it's now the Nationals 3 and the Red Sox nothing. 21 homers, 52 knocked in. A major league leading 74 runs scored, and swings and drives one deep left center field. This is way back. This ball is off the top of the monster. Caroms down. They have just signaled a home run for James Wood. It is gone. Goodbye. Off the top of the monster, just beyond, and Caroms back in. For James Wood, his 22nd home run. That gives him 55 runs batted in, and it gives the Nationals a double-digit scoring day at Fenway Park. It's the Nationals 10 and the Red Sox nothing.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He's at Fenway Park in Boston. Do you remember the Nats 4-game losing streak during which the bullpen was a mess? Well, the bullpen hasn't exactly been fixed, but the Nats now are 4-1 since that 4-game losing streak. So much for that losing streak ruining the Nats season. A 10-2 win at the Boston Red Sox on Wednesday afternoon to win the series 2-1, and to conclude a 4-2 American League East road trip as the Nats this past weekend won 2 out of 3 games at the Baltimore Orioles. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season now up to 2 games above 500, 45 and 43. Run differential of plus 17. Coming up later in the show, the latest on the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, courtesy of a report from the voice of the Red Wings, Josh Whetzel. Also, what are you doing this Wednesday, July 8th? This podcast this Wednesday is hosting a meetup at the home base of the Nats Chat podcast, Walters, which is right near Nationals Park. The meetup this Wednesday at 5 p.m. prior to the 6:45 p.m. game against the Houston Astros at Nationals Park. Come hang out and talk Nats. The Nats won the final 2 games of this series at the Red Sox by a combined score of 18-3. More great offense on Wednesday afternoon. 10 runs, 13 hits, which were 3 home runs, a triple, 3 doubles, and 6 singles. 10 walks. Yes, I did say 10 walks. 6 for 14 with runners in scoring position. There, over the last 24 hours or so, has been a lot of conversation about a lot of different things when it comes to the Nats. But, Mark, the offense remains outstanding, and the offense took over the final 2 games of this series to where the Nats ended up humiliating the Red Sox over the final 2 games of this series.
Yeah, look, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but I mentioned the other night about that the last time they were in any kind of benches clearing incident of any real note in San Diego a couple of years ago. Remember how that all went, both the incident itself, but then the aftermath of it all. They were embarrassed by the Padres, and that was a sign of where they still stood, I think, among the major league hierarchy. Well, the way they responded to this one on the field with their performance says to me they've taken a step up. They are above the Red Sox in a lot of ways, and most importantly, above them in terms of the actual performance on the field. And all these things we have now seen this year, moments when we thought it could all fall apart for them, and we have seen every single time them come back with winning baseball, whatever that has looked like. And sometimes it has to do with what they do on the field, sometimes off the field. Whatever the case, they have proven themselves to be able to shrug off whatever happened, good or bad, the night before, and come back and play really good baseball the next day in almost every instance. We're way past the point of wondering if that's going to hold true or not. They continue to do it. And above all else, it's because of their ability to score runs in bunches, which they have now, clearly proven over 88 games.
CJ Abrams didn't even play on Wednesday afternoon, and yet still the Nats did as they did offensively. The Nats did what they did offensively, despite the Red Sox throwing yet another quality starting pitcher at the Nats, Payton Tolle, and the Nats got to him. The Nats handled him. Payton Tolle allowed 6 runs in 3 innings. Payton Tolle came into this game with an ERA of 2.78 over 12 games, all starts, and the Nats made him look pedestrian in this game. Again, getting to good starting pitching. James Wood, what a series he ended up having. He was the Nats starting left fielder and number 1 batter, 2 for 4 with a 3-run homer, a single, and 2 walks. So he got on base 4 times. Wood in the Nats 3-run 7th had a 2-out opposite field 3-run homer over the Green Monster in left center field for a 10-0 Nats lead. We saw plenty of guys homer over the Monster over the course of this series. James Wood went opposite field to homer over the Monster. Think about that. Wood's home run total now at 22, the OPS now at 911. And, you think back to just a few days ago, James Wood, his numbers have come back down to earth. James Wood, he's cooled off. James Wood over the 3 games in this series, 6 for 13, 2 homers, a double, 3 singles, and 2 walks. He put on a show these last 3 games.
So only twice this season has he gone through any kind of mini slump. He did it the first week of the season, and then he did it for about a week prior to this most recent stretch of the last 4 games. And in each case, he has minimized that slump and come back with force. Like, not just, he's doing all right. No, come back in a big time way. And I think that's such an important development for him. We know the track record of how streaky he can be. And we know how last season went. And once it started to go south, it went that way and he never recovered. Now, he's still got almost half a season to go. But just the mere fact that twice now he's shown that he's able to get out of this thing before it really spirals out of control, I think is such an important sign for him. And it kind of mirrors the team as a whole. Every time you think they're going to go on a losing streak, they bounce right back. Well, when we've thought James Wood might go into a slump, he's bounced right back. And I don't think that should be, undersold. I think this is a really important development for him to show that he can sustain that kind of production night in and night out and not let things go south on him for more than a few days at a time.
He has been outstanding. He absolutely should, and I believe will be an all-star. And I think it's getting interesting. The home run derby, if asked, will he perform or will he politely decline? I mean, if you are in charge of putting together the cast of characters in the home run derby, how do you not want this guy? I mean, you got to have this guy in the derby. Now, I don't know that he wants to do it or should do it, but you got to want him to be in the home run derby with how good he is and how majestic his home runs can be.
Sure. I mean, MLB loves him and rightfully so. And just the idea of it being in Philadelphia with, and we don't know for sure yet, but let's assume that Harper and Schwarber are in it as well. Of course, that's great theater if James Wood is in it as well. But we'll see. I would just not be surprised given how it went last year. The fact that he just did it last year, and the fact that he's still young is going to have a lot of opportunities before his career is over, if he might just politely decline, as you put it, and focus on playing in the All-Star game and focus on helping this team win coming out of the All-Star break, which is not a position they were in last year. This is the first time he's been in this spot as a member of the Nationals, and I've got to wonder if that might take priority in his mind.
No, the Nats went into the All-Star break last year, remember, having just fired Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez. That happened on the Sunday before the week before the All-Star break. Remember, they fired Rizzo a week before the draft.
And the day of the All-Star rosters being announced, the day that Wood was named an All-Star for the first time, it was not long after that he found out his GM and manager had been fired. What a day that was.
That was an unbelievable day. We are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of that day, July 6th. But also homering for the Nats on Wednesday afternoon. So James Wood homers, you say, okay, water is wet. The sun is rising in the east tomorrow. Okay. Andres Chaparro and Nasim Nuñez homered in this game. How about that? Chaparro as the Nats starting first baseman and number 3 batter, 1 for 2 with a 2-run homer. Who says he shouldn't be batting high up in the lineup? Chaparro in the Nats 2-run first, a 1-out 2-run homer over the monster in left field for a 2-0 Nats lead. That home run was just Chaparro's 4th extra base hit at the major league level this regular season. He has 4 extra base hits over 58 plate appearances. And Nasim Nuñez, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 8 batter, 1 for 4, solo homer and a walk. Did strike out 3 times, but that's what happens with power hitters. They strike out a bunch like Nuñez. Nuñez in the Nats 5-run 4th, leadoff first pitch homer over the monster and left for a 3-1 Nats lead. Which homer did you enjoy more, the Chaparro homer or the Nuñez homer?
Well, Nuñez homers are always special because he enjoys them. Let's be clear. He hit 4 of them last year, including his first 2 homers in the big leagues came on the same day, and it was such an unexpected delight, and he relishes all those moments. But I'm going to say in this case that it was the Chaparro one because, first of all, it set the tone for the day right off the top in the top of the first. But we've been discussing it for several days. I know everyone out there has been wondering this as well. How long is Blake Butera going to keep putting him not just in his lineup against lefties, but in prominent spots in the lineup, batting second or batting third, as he did in this game, when the production up until today had been almost non-existent? And we've discussed the reasons why he kind of stuck with him and what the thought process was behind it. Well, at some point, you do have to actually come through with some results. And boy, was that a result. He crushed that ball. That was an automatic off the bat. You knew what it was. And you could tell that that meant something to Chaparro. He appreciates the opportunities he's been given, but he also knows that he hasn't lived up to his end of the bargain so far. And so a chance to be a true contributor like that, I think that one really meant something for him.
Maybe it was being on the receiving end of a helmet toss by Willson Contreras the previous night that got Chaparro going. Who knows? But anyway, Wood, Chaparro, Nuñez homering. Very nice game for Jacob Young. He was the Nats starting center fielder and number 6 batter. He went 2 for 3 with an RBI double, another double, and 2 walks. Young in the Nats 5-run 4th, a 2-out RBI double to deep left for a 7-0 Nats lead. And Luis Garcia Jr., another big hit, came off the bench to pinch hit and play first base. 1 for 4 with a 2-run single. Garcia in the Nats 5-run 4th, a pinch, bases loaded, 2-run single off the monster and left on an 0-2 pitch to put the Nats up 5-0. So contributions from a lot of different guys. And, you know, you see the Nats in this game, 2 runs top of the first, 5 runs top of the 4th, 3 runs in the top of the 7th. So the offense distributed from a standpoint of early in the game, middle of the game, and then coming in the later innings. And, you know, like I said, no Abrams, keep it Ruiz didn't play in this game, and yet the Nats still put up 10 runs. You know, it feels like this offense, while you're maybe not wowed by more than a few guys, on any given day, multiple people are capable of contributing, and we saw that in this game.
That's been the hallmark of this team all year long. And maybe they haven't all been producing big time at the same time, but there's always been multiple players on this team hitting. And so it does take the pressure off of others. And so even when Wood and Abrams were kind of slumping there for a little bit, they were still scoring runs because they were getting it from Garcia and Meade and Cruz improving. I think it's really important. And I think it's really telling, as we've discussed this, that they are one of the most productive offenses in the league, despite really only having 2 quote unquote superstars and a lot of others who've done really nice things, but they don't necessarily blow you away with their overall stats. That shows you how they are all contributing to this, how Butera is correctly playing the matchups and putting them in positions where they can have success, and how they've really come together as a team. And there hasn't been a single day that they've all said, all right, James, it's up to you. You gotta lead the way, or to CJ. They don't do that. There's a belief that whoever it is that's put up there in a big spot is going to come through for them. And again, we're more than halfway through the season now, and that's held true. And I don't think that's about to change.
Al Galdi here to tell you about Window Nation. But before that, the Window Nation look into the future.
Hit in the air, out to left on a hard line. It's going back. It's out of here. Home right, home run. Caden Wallace. And the Sens take a 1-0.
Hey, Al Galdi here for Window Nation. If you're using chat to research your next home improvement project, forget the prompts. We've got all the details on a company that you can trust. For replacement windows and doors without the hassle, just look up Window Nation. Window Nation is the real deal. Homeowners across the country love the one-day installation process, especially since Window Nation installers leave your home cleaner than when they started. And this month, you can get 50% off all window styles, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments for 2 years. That's a lot of savings on top of quality windows and doors. 866-90NATION or windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. And did I mention that Window Nation backs each window with a lifetime transferable warranty? That's on top of team members double and triple checking their work from initial measurements to final installation. Reach out to Window Nation to get the windows featured on HGTV's Designing Spaces. And don't forget, this month, you can save 50% on all window styles, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments until 2028. Get a free quote at windownation.com. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. Window Nation, the real deal when it comes to replacement windows and doors. 866-90NATION, windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Now the set. The runners go. Here it comes. Swing and a foul tip. Millis holds it. He struck him out. Fastball 94 to the outside corner. Wilyer Abreu fires away the bat and the helmet to the backstop as Alvarez survives trouble in the fifth, stranding the bases loaded.
I thought I just did a good job of, attacking, and when I got behind and things got tough, being able to get out of there and trust Millie and trust the defense behind me.
The Nats starting pitcher in this game was an opener, and the opener was Brad Lord. First time that Lord has been used as an opener in this regular season, and he did well. 2 1/3 scoreless innings. Then starting pitcher Andrew Alvarez came into the game as the Nats bulk pitcher, and he did well. 4 2/3 scoreless innings, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk. Alvarez gave up just 2 hits, which were a double and a single. He issued a hit by pitch, 74 pitches, 46 strikes, 28 balls. Alvarez came into the game and actually served as a fireman, got a big out, actually got a big 2 outs, came into the game, bottom of the third, runners at the corners, 1 out, Nats up 2-0, and Alvarez, via the first pitch that he threw, generated a 3-6-3 double play that by Blake Butera was successfully challenged into being a double play. So Lord set the tone with his work as an opener. Alvarez continued the good work. Alvarez now at the major league level in this regular season, 11 games, including 5 starts, ERA 3.05, whip 138. His strikeouts per 9 innings now at 10.45, higher than that of Cade Cavalli. If you can believe that, Cavalli's strikeouts per 9 innings at 10.16. Cavalli has thrown a few more innings than Alvarez has thrown, but you get the idea. Alvarez has been a strikeout pitcher. What'd you think about Lord opening, though? I don't know that many people would have anticipated that.
No. So what did we just the other night say? That because the bullpen was totally fresh, because they had an off day coming up on Thursday, Butera could use his bullpen however he wanted. And we were surmising what that might look like. I don't think we came to the conclusion that it would actually involve somebody pitching before Alvarez came in. But it made sense. Lord was fresh. He was available. The Red Sox are not super lefty heavy with their lineup. And so you put him out there first. He absolutely did a good job for them. Then you bring in Alvarez. And as you said, gets out of that jam immediately on 1 pitch, gets out of a bases loaded jam later on. Beneficiary of a whole lot of run support, so there wasn't a lot of high leverage spots for him. But the two of them combined just did a fantastic job and got them to the end of the game. And with such a big lead, Butera was able just to go with a couple of recent call-ups to finish out the game. I kind of would have liked to see how this would have gone if it was a close game. My hunch is that Alvarez would have been pulled sooner and that they maybe only would have let him face the lineup once. And then he would start his matchup process the rest of the way. We'll never know how that would have gone. But Blake Butera basically had the luxury of deploying his pitching staff however he wanted for this game. The path that he chose was a very good one, very successful, and it still leaves everyone in pretty good shape, I guess, outside of Lord when they return to play Friday night against the Pirates.
Interesting, right? We've talked about Lord. Could he / should he be a starting pitcher? Here he was actually starting a game, albeit as an opener, but doing well in that role once again. The Nats in this game using two relievers beyond the opener and the bulk man, and Riley Cornelio and Carson Palmquist were those two guys. They combined to allow 2 runs in 2 innings. Cornelio, 2 runs in 1 inning. Bottom of the 8th, allowed 2 runs on 3 singles and a walk. Palmquist scoreless bottom of the 9th, despite giving up a leadoff single and a 1-out double. You know, it's funny. So few relievers were needed in this series that the Nats make those roster moves on Monday, and included in the moves were the calling up of Palmquist and the calling up of Cornelio, and we don't see either guy until game 3 of this series.
Right. And, garbage time, 1 inning apiece for them. It's an underrated part of this series that the bullpen really did not factor into it at all. And that's a product both of Cade Cavalli's brilliance on Tuesday night, of Miles Mikolas's very odd, but ultimately kind of important 7 innings that he gave them, even in a loss. And we talked about it at the time that would have a domino effect. And yes, he was not effective, but being able to go 7 innings despite giving up 6 runs, it allowed everyone else to be available the rest of the series. They're not in that position very often. He very often is burning up relievers in game 1 or game 2 of a series. And we've, how many times we've seen them get to game 3 and his options are very limited in what he can do. You had the complete opposite in this case, and that was nice to see for a change. But the starting pitching, and I'm going to include Alvarez in that category there, was really important for them in this series, even in the one game that they lost.
You mentioned Miles Mikolas. So the Nats have announced their probable starting pitchers for their next series, the 3-game series against the Pittsburgh Pirates at Nationals Park this weekend. Game 1 Friday evening, 6:45, Foster Griffin. Game 2 Saturday morning at 11:05 in the Nats annual 11:05 a.m. July 4th home game, Zach Littell. And then Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 1, Miles Mikolas. The fact that the Nats are listing Mikolas as the probable starter for Game 3 of that series, should we take that as a sign that Mikolas is not going to get suspended for what happened in Game 2 of this series at the Red Sox, or should we not take it that way?
No, I wouldn't read anything into it yet. MLB is going to look into it, and I would imagine maybe it'll happen on Thursday on the off day when any punishments that come out from that will be handed down. I think if you're the Nationals, you proceed as if nothing's going to happen. You don't preemptively make a change if you don't know that anything's going to happen to Mikolas. But even if it doesn't, I was wondering this with the off day. We've talked about how Littell and Mikolas are pitching on back-to-back days because of Cavalli's food poisoning a couple weeks ago. Well, would they use that off day as an opportunity to split them up again so that it makes it easier to use openers if they want to go that route? And I thought maybe they would do that. They could still do it. I think we've learned not to read too much into what the Nationals announce as their probable rotation plans. It pretty much boils down to the night before, or even more often the morning of, when we find out for sure who's going to pitch. They could, if they want, they could have Cavalli come back on full rest for Sunday and push Mikolas back to Monday against the Astros. Or if Mikolas does get suspended for his actions in the brawl, they're in a position where Cavalli could start that game on normal rest as well. So I'm not going to read too much into that. I think there could be some definitive changes over the course of the weekend.
So Blake and I met with Cade, and as you can probably imagine, he's pretty beat up right now. He had a tough time going to sleep last night, and I think, largely because of the feedback that he was receiving regarding his choice of words last night.
And regarding what happened on Tuesday night, so we have some fallout from that. So with Cade Cavalli and this now infamous phrase, him saying to Willson Contreras, quote, "sit down, boy," end quote. Both Cavalli and Nats president of baseball operations, Paul Toboni, speaking to reporters at length prior to the game on Wednesday afternoon.
I'm extremely torn up about the way that things were perceived. Obviously, there was no ill intention behind that. My teammates know me. My family knows me. This organization knows me. And I couldn't sleep because of it. It hurt my heart.
Cavalli really was contrite, talking about how he had trouble sleeping Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, talked about how what happened hurt his heart in terms of people taking what he said as being racial. Cavalli at one point said, quote,
if there's a 13-year-old black kid in D.C. that sees that looked up to me and thinks that he perceived it in a way that wasn't intended the way that that it came out. And then he's not looking up to me anymore. That hurts my heart. It's really tough. I've learned a lot. I'm not going to say that. Obviously, just the intention was perceived different than what my heart is and who I am as a person, my character.
End quote. What'd you think about what Toboni and Cavalli had to say?
So I think a few things, some backstory first to that. And I kind of had a hunch this may have been the case on Tuesday night. I don't think Cavalli actually did know in the moment, right after the game, of how his words had been perceived by a lot of people out there. And so when he spoke to us after the game and he used a phrase to the effect of like, it's not a big deal just to say sit down to somebody, I really don't think he knew yet at that point that it was being construed by some as having a racial undertone. And it wasn't until, as he told us, it wasn't until he got back to the team hotel and he checked his phone and saw tons and tons of messages, both from people he knew, but also saw what the chatter was on social media and people calling him out for this, that it hit him just how this had come across. And as he said, it did really strike a chord with him, and he felt awful and in a totally unexpected way. So Paul Toboni and Blake Butera wanted to meet with him on Wednesday morning when they all got to the ballpark. And it sounds like by all accounts, it was a very productive conversation. There was no punishment from the team towards him. It was more of a, here's what the reaction to it is. Tell us, what did you mean in the moment, how you're responding to it. And it was clear that in Cavalli's mind, there was no intent to offend with that, other than a competitor trying to sort of show up a guy he just struck out, who the two of them had a little back and forth earlier in the game, as we discussed. But as I think Toboni in particular pointed out to him, even if what you said in your heart had no bad intent to it, it could be perceived by other people as having a very negative connotation.
His choice of words was not ideal. And candidly, I think he was unaware that it might have like induce a negative reaction from folks. But we talked a lot about that, and I think now he understands it.
And I think they had a very important discussion about how that is. And it sounds like Cavalli, by all accounts, took that to heart, very much so. And I think it's a great sign of somebody who said something, maybe not out of malice, but then understood why it did come across that way to a certain group of people, and why that was then important for him to acknowledge it and say pretty definitively that he's going to change his ways, that he's not going to use that phrase anymore. He described it as like something that he would say with his brother or his father, friends, when they're playing wiffle ball in the backyard. And I think he understands now why in a setting like that on Tuesday night, even if he knew deep down that there was nothing wrong with it or that there was no intent behind what he was saying, that there are people out there who would view it that way. And so I applaud him. I think he handled it very well. I think Paul Toboni handled it very well. And I hope it helps let the people out there who were bothered by it or who came away with a certain impression of who they think Cade Cavalli is, I hope it helped them understand a little more about who he is. And I tried to explain that a little bit last night, the little bit that I've gotten to know him over the years. I think it was very genuine. And hopefully people out there who heard that can listen to his words, read his words, and come away with maybe a different impression than they had of him Tuesday night.
People know me, and they know, they just know my character. That's not me.
I mean, Cavalli clearly put a lot of thought into the whole thing. He spoke for a while on Wednesday. He said a lot of things that you don't usually hear athletes say. You know, I mean, I don't even know that he had to say all of the things that he said. I was kind of worried as I was hearing what he was saying. Like, dude, you don't need to beat yourself up that bad over what you did. You know, like, you know, you didn't mean for it to be offensive. I mean, the way I look at what he said is you can substitute boy with another word that starts with the letter B and rhymes with which. And that's what he was saying. That was the spirit of what he was saying to Willson Contreras. And what's funny is that if he had used that word, which is a much nastier word than boy, he wouldn't have had to apologize for anything. That would have been considered normal sports trash talk if he would have said, sit down, which. to Willson Contreras. Nobody would have had a problem with that. He wouldn't have gotten in any trouble. But because he said boy, and some people are taking it in a certain direction, Cavalli had to apologize. But yeah, I think it does show a lot of introspection on Cavalli's part. He ends up in a lot of ways getting out in front of this. I still think the bulk of the blame resides with Willson Contreras. I get a kick out of some of the people trying to make Cavalli the quote-unquote bad guy in all of this. I mean, again, Contreras did the awkward thing of walking right by Cavalli at the end of the first inning. Contreras was the guy who showboated the homer the previous night and then couldn't take Cavalli showboating on Contreras. So, there's sort of a convenient rewriting of what happened by some people. There also are people, and I saw this on social media, instantly trying to say, Cavalli needs to be suspended. And this like faux outrage. And it's like, spare me that. Okay. Like trying to cancel Cade Cavalli. So of course you have some people who just go out of their way to try to find fault with others. So yeah, I thought what Cavalli said, it's not the kind of thing you would see a lot of other people do. And it definitely demonstrates a maturity on his part.
Yeah, 100%. I also want to make another point, which I think has become pretty clear in the last 24 hours. And I think this is the reason that Cavalli and even the Nationals themselves didn't quite know in the immediate aftermath Tuesday night how it was being perceived outside. I don't think Willson Contreras took it in an offensive way. I think he was offended by the idea that Cavalli said anything to him, that he was showing him up, so to speak, after the strikeout. I think he was going to charge the mound no matter what Cavalli said. And I don't get the sense that he believed that there was a racial undertone to that. And I think that's what probably surprised a lot of people with the Nationals, is that it didn't even occur to them in the moment that that might have been perceived in a racial way. And it's a good reminder. And look, again, it's a poor choice of words, and it's understandable why many people out in the world there would view it in a negative way. And that's why it's important for Cavalli to acknowledge that and say that he's not, that he's learned from it and not going to use it anymore. But I think for the guys actually involved in that on the field, there really was no racial element to it in the moment. And that's why they were all, I think, taken aback by the reaction to it on social media, and then, through reporters who then were asking them all about it after the game.
Yeah, it's people not involved in the situation making this more than it needed to be. I think that's a problem with a lot of these circumstances. I mean, I think the person whose opinion mattered the most was Contreras. What did Contreras think about what happened? I also would be interested in this. What does Keibert Ruiz think about the whole thing? What does Andres Chaparro think about the whole thing? And you'd have to ask them off the record, because they might feel compelled to answer a certain way on the record. But, those two guys from Venezuela, when they hear that phrase, boy, do they take racial offense to it? Or do they say, no, that has nothing to do with race or ethnicity? That's just, trash talk that we have in sports. So it would be interesting to hear what they would have to say. Again, off the record, speaking in a truthful, open manner.
Yeah, I can't say with certainty what they would have thought, but the little bit of sense I got in the clubhouse on Wednesday is that most of those guys, and I'm including some Latino players in that regard, did not realize that there could be a racial connotation to what he said. Now, I think if you had asked James Wood, CJ Abrams, Dalen Lyle, they might have reacted to that differently, that black people would consider the word boy to be more particularly offensive, but that the Latino players maybe did not necessarily think of it in that same way.
It absolutely is a racial situation with black people. We know that. And if Contreras was black, this would be an open and shut discussion. Okay, you can't say sit down boy to someone who's black. But with Hispanic people, I've never heard of boy being a thing. And it's actually kind of funny. There was a fierce debate online over the last day or so of, is boy offensive for people of Spanish descent, or is boy just a thing that's offensive to black people? So you get all kinds of discussions off an incident like what we had on Tuesday night.
Hopefully, the one good thing come out of all this is that it did open a little bit of dialogue, at least, and allow people who jump to conclusions about things, but also those who maybe use language in a way that they don't believe would be offensive, can at least understand why it would be offensive to certain groups of other people. And Isn't that ultimately what we're trying to do as a society? I don't think this society should be about immediately flogging someone for making what was an inadvertent remark that was offensive to some people, and instead being able to come out of that and say, I didn't mean it in that way, but I understand why there are people who would be offended by that. And I'm going to learn from this and make sure I don't use that kind of language again. I think that should be the goal in all of society for all of us as we navigate this.
Would be interesting if Davey Martinez was still the Nats manager, what he would think about this. Would be interesting if Dusty Baker was still the Nats manager, what he would think about all of this. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast, and we leave you now with an update on the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, courtesy of the voice of the Red Wings, Josh Whetzel.
King has a decent lead. He's not running. The pitch is drilled towards center. Back goes Baroa. Still back he goes. It's over his head, and it thumps off the fence. King will score no problem. It's a double off the wall in center for Yo-Yo. All right, it's time for that Rochester Red Wings update, with the Wings coming off a strong month of June that saw the team go 15-9. As far as how some individual hitters are concerned, we'll start with a pair of former travel ball teammates and former Nationals first-round picks who both joined the Red Wings at about the same time this year, Brady House and Seaver King. House playing third base is 10 for his last 29 at the plate. He's hitting .297 with 4 homers and a .779 OPS. Seaver King playing shortstop and a little bit of second, has played 32 games since getting promoted from Harrisburg. Similar numbers to House. He's hitting .277 with 5 homers and a .786 OPS. Third baseman, first baseman, Yo-Yo Morales is still doing well. He maybe tailed off a bit in June, but his .307 batting average is still good for 8th best in the league. He is tied for 6th in the IL in home runs with 17 of them, and just outside the top 10 in the league in OPS with a .919 on-base plus slugging percentage. First baseman Abimelec Ortiz is hitting .252, 14 homers, third in the league with 56 runs batted in, and an even .500 slugging percentage among the roughly 30 or so players in the league who have a .500 slugging percentage or better. Ortiz has one of the lowest strikeout rates. Catcher Harry Ford is coming off a better month of June. He had a .426 on-base percentage for the month, still hitting .214 overall in the season, with a little bit better than league average on-base percentage at .351. Outfielder Andrew Pinckney is coming off a powerful series in Charlotte that saw him hit 3 homers. Pinckney's batting .278 on the year with a dozen home runs, along with 14 stolen bases. And infielder Trey Lipscomb is hitting well with 14 home runs to tie his career high of .506 slugging percentage for Lipscomb. Perhaps the hottest hitter for the Red Wings lately has been Philip Glasser. The second baseman hit .438 for the month of June with a .491 on base percentage. He drove in 17 runs for the month, and he has his batting average now up to an even .300 for the season. On the pitching side of things, left-hander Jackson Kent has made 7 starts since getting promoted from AA Harrisburg. Most of those starts have been good. He has a 4-2 record, a .464 earned run average in 33 AAA innings. He's only allowed 28 hits while walking just 10 men. Luis Perales, 2-4 on the season with a 4.27 earned run average. The hard-throwing Perales has averaged 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. His walk per 9 inning rate, 4.7 walks per 9. Andre Granillo out of the bullpen had a very good month of June, posting a 1.98 ERA for the month. And Eddie Jean, a right-hander with a powerful sinker, has led the league with 37 games pitched. He has a 3.82 ERA, 9 saves in the year, and in 37 2/3 innings, Jean has allowed only 27 hits. I'm Josh Whetzel with this Rochester Red Wings update.
Now the pitch. Swing and a drive hit well to left field. This one way back toward the corner and is off the wall in play. Garcia trots in from third. Young speeding into second, in with a pop-up slide and an RBI double for Jacob Young. His 10th double of the year. He drives in his 31st run as the Bluebirds start to come out here at Fenway Park. Nationals plate another. They have scored 5 runs here in the top of inning number 4. And it's now the Nationals 7 and the Red Sox nothing.